The Romans may have lived over 2,000 years ago, but their impact on modern security is still felt today. Without advanced tools, the Romans relied on creativity and resourcefulness to protect their homes and belongings from the evil thieves lurking in the shadows. From the famous Colosseum to their impressive aqueducts, the Romans built incredible structures that showed off their amazing engineering skills. But with great construction comes great responsibility, and the Romans soon realized they had a major problem on their hands. The problem? Thieves! How would they be able to safeguard their beloved buildings from thieves, robbers, and other nefarious characters? The Romans needed a solution, and fast. After all, ancient Rome wasn't as safe and secure as you might think. Despite its reputation for being a well-ordered society, the Roman Empire was actually plagued by crime and theft. From the wealthy elite in their luxurious villas to the poor in their humble taverns, no one was immune to the threat of robbery and theft. The Romans had built an empire that was both magnificent and vulnerable, and now they had to find a way to protect it. The question was, how? And so, they had to get creative with their buildings. Their homes, known as domus, were designed to be fortresses, protecting their families and belongings from potential threats. There were the walls, thick, sturdy barriers made of stone, brick, or mud that kept intruders at bay. And the doors? Oh, they were reinforced with metal and secured with robust hinges and locks, making them nearly impossible to breach. And don't even think about trying to sneak in through the windows. They were small and narrow, with shutters made of wood or metal that provided an extra layer of security and controlled the amount of light entering the home. But the real masterpiece of Roman home security was the entrance. Known as the vestibulum, this central entrance led to the atrium, the heart of the Roman home, and it was flanked by gates or doors, creating a secure barrier between the public street and the private home. It was like having your own personal security checkpoint. And then there was the atrium itself. This open courtyard was designed with security in mind, allowing natural light and ventilation while also providing a clear view of the entrance. It was the perfect spot to monitor potential threats and respond quickly. Talk about a smart home design. The Romans knew that security was key to a happy and healthy home life, and their clever designs and features continue to inspire us today. Who knew that ancient Roman homes could teach us so much about modern home security? But if you thought that was all the security designs there, Romans took into consideration when building their homes. Think again. There was also the cubiculi, the private quarters where Romans would retreat for some serious relaxation. These cozy spaces were designed for sleeping, relaxation, and personal activities, and were typically tucked away at the rear of the house for maximum seclusion and security. But that's not all. Larger Roman homes also had separate servant quarters, often located near the entrance or in a separate wing. This clever design allowed servants to move easily between the main living areas and their own quarters, all while maintaining a level of separation and security. Wealthy Roman households and even emperors took security to a whole new level. They had their own personal protection teams, including doorkeepers, janitores, and watchmen, vigilus, who kept a sharp eye on every entrance and were ready to respond to any threats. It was like having their own ancient secret service, making sure their homes and their power stayed protected at all times. These ancient Roman homes were more than just grand structures. They were intricate, cleverly designed spaces that balanced security, luxury, and functionality. You see, these Romans employed these measures because theft was so common and brutal in ancient Rome that even elites and emperors engaged in it. Can you just imagine ancient Rome's streets at night? Narrow, dark, and foreboding. It's the perfect setting for a clandestine adventure, and Emperor Nero knew it. Before the Great Fire of 64 CE, which he was later accused of starting, Nero would sneak out of the palace, disguising himself as a slave. What did he get up to? Well, let's just say Nero's nocturnal exploits were not exactly imperial behavior. He'd hide in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. Then he'd strike, attacking unsuspecting passers-by with brutal force. One brave soul even fought back, giving Nero a serious beating. Unfortunately, for that victim, the so-called reward was nothing more than a death sentence. But Nero's midnight antics didn't stop there. He was also a thief, breaking into shops and making off with valuable goods. And what did he do with his loot? He auctioned it off to the highest bidder, right from the comfort of his palace. As news of Nero's crime spree spread, others began to follow in his footsteps. Rome became a city plagued by looting gangs, with crime running rampant through its streets. It was like the city had been taken over by the enemy. What's truly remarkable about this story is that it shows just how twisted ancient Rome's values were. Here was a man who was supposed to be the ultimate authority on law and order, behaving like a common thief. This tale might be more legend than reality, possibly even a way to discredit an already unpopular emperor. Whether it's 100% true or not, it gives us a sneak peek into the darker side of Rome, where crime and corruption were never far from the surface. In ancient Rome, the concept of law enforcement was vastly different from what we know today. The absence of a modern police force meant that citizens had to rely on their own resources to protect themselves and their property. For instance, if someone had the misfortune of being robbed, they couldn't simply report the incident to the authorities. Instead, they had to take it upon themselves to gather evidence, track down the perpetrator, and bring a civil court case against them. This approach to justice was not only time-consuming and costly, but also heavily skewed in favor of the wealthy and well-connected. The rich and powerful had no trouble working the system to their advantage, while regular people were often left to struggle on their own. The state's role in maintaining law and order was limited to providing the infrastructure for trials and meting out punishments. The burden was on the victim to prove their case, gather witnesses, and persuade the judges of their innocence. In this way, ancient Rome's justice system was more similar to a private vendetta than a public service. While it may seem old-fashioned and even barbaric to modern sensibilities, it's a fascinating glimpse into the social and cultural norms of a bygone era. In all essence, justice wasn't always easy to come by. And so, when the usual channels failed, citizens could try petitioning the emperor himself. One such plea from Roman Egypt offers a fascinating glimpse into the everyday struggles of ordinary Romans. For instance, Andromachus, a resident of Tebtunis, who had the misfortune of being robbed and beaten by two thugs, or Xenophus and Pauris, the stolen goods, a white tunic and robe, a cloak, scissors, beer, and, surprisingly, a stash of salt. Andromachus's petition, written on papyrus, was sent straight to the local governor, the emperor's representative in Egypt. But here's the catch. Just sending a petition didn't mean you'd be heard. The system was overloaded, with way more people seeking justice than the officials could handle. Theft was definitely a serious problem in ancient Rome, and citizens like Andromachus had to get creative to seek justice. So, what more steps did these Romans do to limit theft and keep their valuables safe? Apart from their innovative house designs, which had its own way of keeping thieves at bay, it was not totally foolproof, and so they had to think up even bigger plans to safeguard their homes, cities, and entire empire. So, they built fortifications, walls, and defensive structures that would make even the most seasoned engineers jealous. The Romans were masters of engineering, and their construction techniques were light years ahead of their time. They built walls that were strong, durable, and could withstand even the most brutal attacks. One iconic example of their handiwork is Hadrian's Wall in Britain. Imagine a wall stretching 73 miles across northern England, fortified with towers, gates, and watchtowers. That's exactly what the Romans built in the early 2nd century AD to keep those pesky Scottish tribes at bay. And it worked like a charm. The wall was an impenetrable barrier that protected the Roman Empire from countless attacks. But the Romans didn't just rely on physical barriers to protect their empire. Oh no, they had some more tricks up their sleeves. They employed a range of clever security measures to safeguard their military and government infrastructure. Think guard patrols, watchtowers, and advanced weaponry. The Romans pulled out all the stops to detect and respond to potential threats. The Roman military was legendary, not just for its discipline, but for its cutting-edge weaponry. They wielded iconic arms like the gladius sword, the pilum spear, and powerful siege engines like the ballista and catapult. But these weapons weren't just for battle. They also played a key role in building fortifications and defensive structures, proving that Roman warfare was as much about strategy and engineering. But the Romans knew that security wasn't just about big walls and powerful weapons. They also recognized the importance of personal security for high-profile individuals like the emperor and government officials. To protect these VIPs, the Romans employed bodyguards, secure transportation, and fortified facilities for meetings and events. The Romans' multi-layered security strategy was a masterclass in risk management. By combining physical barriers, advanced weaponry, and personal security measures, they created a robust defense system that protected their empire from threats both within and without. But you see, there was also a very funny side to the security measures these Romans took, and thinking of it today is just plain hilarious. Now, forget about high-tech motion detectors or sophisticated surveillance cameras. The Romans relied on a much more unusual solution: geese. That's right, these loud, feisty birds were the Romans' go-to security solution, and it's a tactic that dates back to 390 BC. Geese may seem like an odd choice, but they have some unique qualities that made them ideal for the job. For one, they're extremely loud, and their gaggle can be heard from a distance. They're also fiercely protective of their territory and will charge at anyone they don't recognize. The Romans discovered that intruders could slip past guards and dogs undetected, but geese could sense their presence and sound the alarm by cackling and flapping their wings. This quirky solution was surprisingly effective, and geese remained a popular choice for security for centuries. But just how effective were these feathered alarm systems? Well, consider this. Geese are still used as burglar alarms in some parts of the world today. Until 2002, a distillery in Scotland relied on a gaggle of 100 guard geese to keep their premises secure. Even the US military and Chinese government have used geese as a secondary layer of defense. In fact, the use of geese as alarm systems has been documented in various cultures throughout history. The ancient Greeks, for example, used geese to guard their temples and public buildings. And in some parts of Europe, geese are still used to guard farms and homes. But as clever as the Romans' goose alarm system was, it had its limitations. Thieves could still find ways to slip past these feathered sentinels, and the Romans needed a more robust solution. This led to a groundbreaking innovation that would change the game forever. The Romans' engineering prowess and technical expertise laid the foundation for lock development, and their ideas would influence locksmiths for over 2,000 years. But were they the first to create metal locks? That's still a topic of debate among historians, with some attributing the earliest metal locks to the skilled Etruscans, the precursors to the Romans. One thing is certain, though: the Romans took the concept of locks to the next level. They transformed the clumsy wooden locks of ancient Egypt and Greece into elegant steel pin tumbler locks, complete with ingenious steel springs. These locks were tiny masterpieces of precision and design, with one notable quirk: they could only be opened from one side. The Romans were indeed the pioneers of modern lockmaking, and their innovative use of metal transformed the industry forever. Gone were the clumsy wooden pin tumbler locks of the past. The Romans introduced all metal locks that paved the way for the invention of the padlock. But how did these padlocks work? Authors Jerry Slocum and Dick Sonneveld took a deep dive into the fascinating world of ancient puzzle locks. These clever padlocks were crafted from bronze, featuring thicker rings often shaped into the face of a god. But what made them truly unique was their clever design. The faceplate would flip up, revealing a keyhole, but that was only the beginning. To open the lock, you'd need to manipulate hidden plates, a puzzle that required the correct key and a bit of know-how. These puzzle locks were used to secure coin purses, essentially creating an ancient moneygram that could only be opened by the intended recipient. While they might not have been foolproof, a determined bandit could always slice open the coin pouch. They were a clever solution for their time. Fast forward to today, and it's clear that these ancient padlocks won't provide the same level of security as modern locks, but they're still a fascinating glimpse into the ingenuity of ancient Romans and their quest for secure solutions. How about the Romans' innovative use of metal springs? It was a game changer. They had learned from the Greeks, who had discovered the springy properties of metals over 1,000 years earlier. The Romans applied this knowledge to create not only locks, but also buckles and fibulas, the ancient equivalent of safety pins. By harnessing the elasticity of metals, the Romans created a lock mechanism that was both secure and sophisticated. It's a testament to their brilliance and creativity, and their legacy can still be seen in the locks we use today. By combining steel springs with metal lock housings, Roman engineers created locks that were more reliable, easier to manage, and remarkably secure. These designs have stood the test of time, influencing lockmaking, even in the modern era. As the Roman Empire expanded, their locks became a staple of everyday life, distributed far and wide across the empire. But have you ever wondered how these locks were made? The answer lies in the Roman craftsmen's guilds, known as collegia, which brought together skilled artisans, both free and slave, to work together in workshops. These workshops were hubs of activity, with raw materials pouring in from all corners of the empire. Artisans would buy these materials on the local market, creating a thriving economy that drove innovation and growth. The Roman engineers and craftsmen were the masters of their domain, and their innovative spirit extended far beyond lockmaking. With wealth accumulating in Rome and other cities, the need for secure storage became a pressing concern, and once again, the Roman engineers and craftsmen rose to the challenge, demonstrating their remarkable innovativeness in creating burglar-proof storage solutions that kept valuables safe and secure. Thanks to the incredible archaeological discoveries in Pompeii and Herculaneum, we've been given a fascinating glimpse into everyday life in ancient Roman cities. These cities, frozen in time by the devastating volcanic ash, have revealed the intricacies of Roman daily life, from their homes and furnishings to their security measures. Imagine walking into a Roman home circa 1st century AD. The furniture is sparse, yet elegant, with a distinctly Greek flair. Large cupboards and wooden chests are the primary storage solutions, adorned with intricate carvings and paintings. These chests, often equipped with locks, served as closets, storing everything from clothing and household utensils to precious jewelry. The archaeological digs have yielded some incredible finds, including beautifully crafted chests with flat lids, adorned with intricate designs. Despite the catastrophic disaster that buried the cities, many of these chests still held their original contents, a testament to the Romans' advanced technological thinking. In Pompeii, archaeologists discovered a remarkable example of a locking cash chest, reinforced with iron and bronze fittings. This sturdy chest was designed to protect valuable assets, demonstrating the Romans' emphasis on security. Other finds include stationary cash chests, securely anchored to stone bases, providing an added layer of protection. And the keys. Roman keys were crafted from a variety of materials, including bronze, iron, bone, and hardwood. These keys were not just functional, they were also miniature works of art. Some keys featured intricate designs with shafts shaped like humans or animals, while others had angular bits and holes. One of the most convenient innovations of Roman keys was the tiny key that doubled as a finger ring. These petite keys were perfect for unlocking small storage boxes and jewelry chests. But Roman keys weren't just for unlocking doors, they were status symbols. Only those with property worth protecting could afford these intricately designed locks and keys, making them a must-have flex for the wealthy. If you had one, it wasn't just about security. It was a clear sign of power and privilege in ancient Rome. Interestingly, some Roman keys even reflected the architectural styles of the time. The shafts of these keys would often resemble the doors, locks, or even the gables of houses. Today, many of these ancient Roman keys are on display at the Saalburg Fort, a Roman museum located near Frankfurt, Germany. This fascinating collection showcases a wide variety of keys, each with its unique design and characteristics. Who would have thought that something as simple as a key could carry so much history and significance? Today, we rely on alarm systems, motion detectors, and smart home tech, feeling like we've got security all figured out. But the Romans were the true pioneers. They laid the foundation for modern security, and their innovations still inspire us today.